Now we're going to have Juergen come up from Bosch. If there is time for questions, at some point speakers can ask. If we got 1 or 2 minutes, I think that could be fine, but I guess I'll leave it up to the speaker if they want to ask any questions.
Anyone? Awesome. Okay, so yeah, we'll be down at the exhibit floor as well, and I'll be here through Wednesday. Obviously, come free to seek us out or anyone from my company.
Okay. Hello, my name is Juergen Lumera. I'm a director for product management at Bosch. And Bosch, maybe it's strange for some of you, why is Bosch even here? We are a service provider for augmented reality enterprise solutions, but also a consumer of AR inside of Bosch for all of our products, or the majority of it. So it's pretty, we know both sides. And what I showed today is knowledge coming from both of these sides, coming from customer interaction, where we consult companies how to apply, how to introduce AR, but also to do this internally. And we learned internally is much harder than do it externally, because they don't trust you internally. So they feel, oh, somebody from outside knows this much better. So how to find the right case? This is much harder than it sounds. In our opinion, you need, or somebody who's looking for an internal use case to apply it enterprise-wide. It's not these sandbox projects my colleague talked about. It's an enterprise-wide solution. I have the goal, I want to roll it out for my enterprise, for all of my products, for all of my regions, all of the individual variants I have to it. Where do you waste money at that moment? So where is my biggest problem? I need to know this. The first idea you will have, and this most likely is not the best one, and I will show you later who may generate the best idea. Even if you know where I waste my money at the moment, the ideas you derive from this are not the best ones. And the reason is you ask the wrong guys. Scientists and engineers should not decide what you do. Because look at all of these sandbox projects you have seen in the last 10 years. The majority came out of R&D centers or software companies not understanding an enterprise business. They should not decide what you implement. You need to find the right guys in your organization to talk to, and not engineers and scientists. So I belong to this group, so you should not ask me maybe. A technician or end user is the best source for ideas. So we have a couple of products. I mean, you may have power tools from Bosch, or you have a white goods piece of it, or some in the car. When we talk to the engineers developing these things, they came up with high-end, good-sounding ideas. And then you talk to a technician, and suddenly he came up with problems the engineer doesn't even know about it. And you can solve these with AR. And you would be astonished how much good feedback you get from a technician. But let's assume you have asked all of these guys. Then suddenly the question came up, do you have enough data for that product or for the help somebody is asking? Do you really have this data? When you know everything is generated, designed in CAD data, engineered, produced, but is this data sufficient? Is it accurate? Very often you have something out in the market, an enterprise, well, we know this. I think I have not seen a single company who has exactly the engineering data available for the product that they have built. Because they changed it during production. They used different cables, different materials, and nobody is feeding back that information. Do you have the case under your full control? So let's assume you define something, you found something, but can you control everything? Or do you have a supplier providing you some information you even cannot use? When you have an enterprise use case, you found now everything, but suddenly you realize the majority of the stuff even doesn't belong to me. I cannot get CAD data for it. I cannot use it. I cannot distribute it in an AR application, stuff like that. And finally, can you really support such an implementation? Now you find all of the cases, you have your data, etc. But can you really support this? Do you have the knowledge? Do you have enough time to do this? Because if you want to get out of these sandbox projects, this is a significant effort. And you need to have somebody dedicated to this and contributing to this and understanding what you're doing and acting very fast. But this is a very trivial statement, the last one, because it's true for all of the bigger projects. But in our opinion, especially for AR, when you look the last 10 years, most of the projects in the automotive were extremely simple stuff. You may have seen with somebody a BMW movie where they exchange a front cooler of a BMW. No technician will ever use anything like that for showing or using exchanging a front cooler. Nobody. They will throw you out of the garage. But if you want to get the right things, then you need to go there. Do I have hardware helping that guy in the workshop? Do I have the right components for him to help him in the workshop? So a totally different approach, and support with the end user is a significant success factor. And finally, what do you want to do with this? If you have a test case and you find all of this, but what do you finally do? If you don't have the end goal in mind, then you just build another sandbox project. If I say, oh, now I find a use case, let's say, a typical case for automotive is they want to see the wire harnesses. So a technician doesn't see what is behind the surface of a car. So, and if I now build a little application, I find a little test case, I want to show wire harnesses for a specific vehicle. But what you must have in mind is, do I want to do this for this single car, for this car in this region, or this car globally with all variants, with all the supporting data, etc. So if you go through all of this, you also need to know, if you have a test case, what do you do afterwards with it? If you don't have an idea what you do afterwards with it, don't start. This is wasted money, because you just prove AR is a cool thing. It looks great, but you have no idea what you do afterwards with it. To get all of this information, we put together a little table, because we think you can split this into 3 categories. You do kind of a basic analysis, you do an idea generation, because I said the first idea is not the right one, so you need to get more ideas, you need to expand on what you came up at the beginning. And then you need to evaluate the feasibility of these things. The resources you can talk to, or you should talk to human resources, not to data. You do an analysis on top of it statistically. Talk to people and understand what they need. For example, basic analysis, where do we spend money right now? Of course, you can ask a technician, an author, a manager, engineering. They all will be very helpful to it. Also, everybody has to say something. Especially a manager tells you, I spend way too much money in technical documentation, get rid of this. But then, what would a visual aid influence this? A manager won't tell you this. But a technician, when you understand where you spend money, for example, a certain warranty case costs you a lot of money. The guy who may know how to fix this is a technician repairing your product. So you ask, what visual support would you help you to fix this, to eliminate this money? Then what support would you expect from it? So I ask again the technician, so not just the visual aid, what support, what should make your life easier? Maybe some of this is finally not AR. This is very often when we talk to consultants, we realize AR is not fixing all of their problems. But then you must embed AR into a complete solution, into a complete approach to eliminate the first thing. But you will be astonished how many things you learn from a technician. How should this be integrated? So suddenly you have an existing product. You have already technical documentation. You have end users documentation, operation guides, etc. But how should this be integrated? Because it's not just that you find a case. It needs also to be fit together with the rest. It needs to fit in a way that it's a help. And this is something a technician and an author know, and maybe engineering, because he has to help you get this in the product if the product itself needs to support it. And maybe it's something I always forget to explain if it's not clear what an author means. Also, we're coming from a technical documentation world. So I'm out of Bosch's technical documentation area. And also for us means somebody who's creating with standard tools right now technical documentation, with an XML editor, with Word or whatever, creating technical documentation. And he knows how to describe something. So he's also a very good source of information how to move what he currently creates into an AR environment. And that's why I'm asking him. Additional idea generation. Dream, what would you do in addition? So we do this with all of them. So with technician, author, manager, engineering. Man, you talk to all of them, but the end user will be the one who gives you the most, because they came up with ideas you never thought, problems you never heard about. That's suddenly, when I built this, I could do this data is available, this would fit very well together. What future features of our product may require this? So suddenly it's no longer the end user, it's the engineering department or the product manager, because they know what the product will be in the future, and maybe this is a driver for an AR application, because in the future I don't have a display anymore. I don't have printed any information on it, so I need something like that. Additional idea generation, you will get quite a lot of these. And then finally, evaluate feasibility. Do we have the data? The end user doesn't know if you have the data. He may know if you have the capability to use the AR with mobile phones or with other stuff. The manager, an engineer, an author, they can contribute to this. Can we test this in a real scenario? So it's really, do you have a product where whatever you do, you really can put in short time into the market and test it with a significant amount of people? Not just the 3 guys in your training department, you do it with a whole market. With, let's say, totally in California, you test it with all of the dealers of your product. Can we test this in a real scenario? Is this successful? We put it in production. So when I found the case and I put it in production, will it be successful? When all of the guys can contribute to this. An engineering say, okay, I can see my product gets better use, lower warranty, lower return calls, etc., helplines. Is the author, the manager, able to get this his problem solved faster or not? Okay. So take-home message from this. Select a case which you have under your control. You have to have data, and you have to own the data. Don't rely on third party getting you the data, because if you don't own the data, you won't get it in time. Identify a case where you have unnecessary cost. If you don't show a return of investment, don't do it. If you not calculate from the beginning an ROI and you expect that AR brings you 20% efficiency increase, don't start. If you not get this confidence at the beginning or put out that number. Have the complete picture in mind, scalability. If you do it for a single case, you identified, give you an example, 1 car with all of the wire harnesses. I want to do it with all of my cars, with all variants, with all models, for all markets. Scalability. You need to have this. Is this scalable, what you want to do? Case, you should test the current process and data. So with the test case, I test not only if AR is good for me, I test my processes. Can I create the data? Can I generate stuff? Can I integrate it into it? What you should not do is don't select a trivial case. You learn nothing from it. Getting back to this BMW exchanging the front cooler is a trivial case, a technician won't use, and you have proven nothing. Don't let your IT department decide what you want to use, but some of you maybe come from IT department, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do a project because AR is a cool technology. Sooner or later your manager will realize, you just do this because you like to play around with AR. Find a case where AR makes sense, not because AR is cool and gets this wow factor. Forget it. It will fail. And don't underestimate the input from the end user. The end user is the only one who makes you successful with an AR, because when he's using it and more efficient, you will win. And listen what he says. And I think that's my last thing. And he has 1 minute left. So if somebody wants to ask questions, you're welcome. Thank you.